again. It really signifies to me, Pastor Apostle King, that when we find ourselves in that place where it is necessary for us to prove to people who we are, we really have not become comfortable with the calling ourselves. And we got this thing mixed up in the church. We've gotten this idea of humility. We've somehow misconstrued. We have misnomered humility. It is not the biblical definition of humility. It is not the biblical connotation of humility. When you are in a place that you can't go forward, it is not the biblical understanding of humility. When you procrastinate, it is not the biblical understanding of humility. When you still allow those things of your past to keep you from progressing in the things of God. So I see in my mind, I see a Paul that is vacillating, a Paul, Sister Norris, that is moving between wanting to do the things of God, but then worrying about those who do not accept him. You see him oftentimes, and this is where our text talks, and I'm going to hurry up and get out of here in chapter number 15. Pastor Tina already told us this morning that as the apostle writes to the church at Corinth concerning the resurrection of the dead, he says to them that I'm only giving to you that which I have first received, or that which I am the first partaker of. And I think the woman of God had it right. You can't give people what you have not received. And so the apostle says, I was the first partaker of the grace of God, and because the grace of God has been given to me, the woman of God told us that that grace was extended, and then it became efficacious, and because it was efficacious, we then should become an extension of the grace. And as the apostle is writing concerning the resurrection, he says to them, why are you allowing those who are on the outside to dictate to you the truth about the resurrection? Why are you allowing those who are not a part of the household of faith to try and convince you that the resurrection from the dead has not occurred? For if the resurrection has not occurred, then our believing is in vain. And so he moves from this exposition of the resurrection to moving into an explanation about his own call. That's problematic for me because in this hour I don't have time to try to convince you who I am. I don't have time to prove to you with your doubting self. I don't have time to prove to you with your negative naysaying self. I don't have time to convince you that I am who God said that I am. I don't have time. The hour is getting too late. Hence, there are some people you just got to sow a seed. Sound battles, you're going to make me nervous there. There are some people you just got to sow a seed and you got to move on. My mind runs now when John, who was looking for the Messiah to come, he sent word to Jesus to ask him, are you the one, or shall we look for another? Jesus did not go through any elaborate Yeshua. He did not go through any elaborate explanation. He did not go through any great detail trying to convince John of who he was. He sent the messenger back. Just tell him of the works that you see me do. And I need to tell somebody in this house, if you don't know by now, she's called of God. If you don't know by now, she's a sign of God. If you don't know by now that the hand of God is on heads you might not ever that we too that are called of God have been like Paul. We've been in this place of wrestle. We have been in this place where we cannot fathom how it is that God could choose to use us. I'm not talking about those of you that are still teetering on the peripheral of genuine salvation, but I'm talking about those of us that are out there too far to turn back now. I'm talking about those that have said, for God I will live and for God I will die. I'm talking about those that have relinquished your plan B and have said, if God is not it, then I'm going to miss it altogether. If Jesus is not the way, then I'll choose not another. For those of us that have made that type of commitment, will y'all sit down please? For those of us that have made that type of commitment at some point in your life, you too have been like Paul, where you have wrestled with how is it that God could extend his grace to such a person as you. It is those of us that do not understand the power